women have been holding the foundation of our society together forever. Think about who in your community raised you, taught you, and scooped you up when the road got bumpy. More than likely, it was a woman, or maybe a team of women. We are starting to see how the incremental care we give the most overworked and undervalued members of our society was never enough to keep that foundation healthy and stable. Let's briefly take a look at how we can change that from the ground up.
I think about an ice storm and a really cracked sidewalk. So in each of our communities, we had these cracks and fissures, these problems with our safety net, these sort of entrenched impacts of the systems we're living under. And then you have a giant ice storm, a big disaster like COVID, and that gets in there and freezes, breaks those cracks wider open, and little hairline ones you didn't see before are suddenly things that you have to jump over.
And data shows the same story we've been hearing about, but not always seeing in the headlines of the day. In 2019, there were nearly 10 million mothers of young children in the labor force. Since the pandemic began, nearly 3 million women have lost or been forced to leave their jobs. And in December, 140,000 jobs were lost. All of them were held by women, most of them by Black and brown women. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, unemployment among Black and Latina women is consistently higher than white women. Experts estimate that so many women have been pushed out of the workforce that their participation is back to what it was in the 1980s, an entire generation of progress wiped out in a year.
It's ridiculous. What does that say for the future of women working, right? What does that say for future generations that are saying they're predicting a lot of the jobs that are going to reopen will be low-wage jobs when the economy comes back? So how are we supposed to take care of our families and ourselves?
More than anything, this pandemic shows how desperately we need to reform our societies and systems to ones that value care work, women's labor rights, and paid family leave. In order to build back our country, we must address our national child care crisis. 1 in 4 women unemployed during the pandemic said it was because of a lack of childcare.
It's because of having access to quality childcare and affordable childcare that I've been able to work. I've been able to educate myself. I'm just very fortunate to have a job where I am able to work remotely. But had this been just a few short years ago, that would not be my fate.
Despite the calendar reading 2021, women still tend to be responsible for the health of their families. Sick days, doctor's appointments, and caring for older relatives all fall on women to just handle. COVID-19 has laid bare the disparities that show women do the majority of the domestic chores and child-related planning, even when both parents work or the woman is the primary breadwinner. And that's the simplified view, which is not inclusive of all American households. We know many families have more structures than just one mom and one dad. As a result, the pandemic, disrupting working and healthcare routines, has created a perfect storm that is forcing more women to choose between taking care of their families and holding on to their out-of-the-home jobs. Armed with all this evidence, we as women, as a movement, are now shouting that time is overdue for real action from the decision makers we put into seats of power. But haven't we made any progress? It's not all bad news. Despite the cracks in our societal pavement, we are making some needed cracks to the glass ceiling. In a historic mile marker, women, who are roughly half of our population, now make up more than a quarter of all members of the 117th Congress. Those are ballots in the right direction. We are also celebrating the historic number of women of color who have been elected to local, state, and federal seats. Congress now must be primed to make historic change, right? Well, not so fast. This is where organizers and people like you step in to hold all decision makers accountable. In the short term, President Biden's American Rescue Plan is a critical step toward helping all families. Investment of at least $40 billion in childcare in order to provide access to safe childcare and stabilize childcare businesses. $1,400 in individual stimulus payments so families might be able to pay bills that keep piling up. Restore supplemental unemployment insurance to $400 a week for the duration of the crisis to help families while they find work. Inclusion of all immigrants in relief resources, including creating a fast track to citizenship for undocumented essential workers and their families. People can't be essential and deportable. This list is a starting point to show American families that they are worth saving, that even the most vulnerable lives bring value to our country. And to all the women we celebrate in these calls to action, we are with you, celebrating you regardless of gender identity or sexuality. Regardless if you are a mother, can bear children, or want children, regardless of how any government has acknowledged your status. This is a movement for all of us, in all our interconnected experiences. This International Women's Day, March 8th, we're on the streets and digital platforms taking action. And from there, we're not finished. Remedying what women need to survive this pandemic will take all of us uniting. Together, by educating each other and organizing the people we love, we will get closer to closing the gaps in our broken foundations. Stay tuned, share your story, and raise your voice with us.